much, if any, of what Troy has to say to us, but just wanted to welcome everybody to this webinar. It's being put on by the Southern District of IT's Workforce Development Subcommittee of the Member Services Committee. And I will not say that again, that's a mouthful. My name is Todd Brooks. I'll serve as the moderator for today's webinar. Let me cover a few announcements before I introduce today's webinar and our speaker. Today's presentation is being recorded for later viewing, so just making sure you're aware of that. Don't think you have a choice in this, but please remain on mute until the end of the we say until the end of the presentation. Just stay on mute until we ask you to come off or ask questions or whatever. So if you do have questions during the presentation, you can just drop them in the Q&A feature in Zoom. I'll be looking at that, trying to keep an eye on that to help our speaker out, and we'll get to them as soon as we're able. Our speaker has agreed to kind of field questions as we go along, so try not to interrupt him too much, but we won't have to hold all questions to the end. He's willing to answer them as we go along. Unfortunately, right now, we still are not quite set up. We're getting closer to being able to award PDHs for our webinars. I'm sorry weren't able to pull that off for this one. Please consult your local licensing board's rules concerning self-reporting if they allow that. And we'd appreciate your feedback, of course, and suggestions on future webinars and training. Just drop them in the chat or send them email to me or Demetra or anybody on about this. And we're planning another webinar coming up in December, maybe December, but it may shift into mid-January, mid to late January. It'll be a third installment in our series of AI in transportation that's coming up. So just stay tuned for that. And now I'd like to introduce today's presentation and speaker. The topic for today's webinar is entitled The Life Cycle of a Planning Project. Our speaker today is Troy Ebert, who currently serves in the Office of Community Transportation for the Tennessee Department of Transportation, where he has been for the past 9 years. Prior to that, Troy was at the Kingsport. He was the Kingsport MPO coordinator for 4 years. And then before Kingsport, he served 7 years principal land use planner in the state local planning assistance office, the First Tennessee Development District in Washington County, Tennessee. He also served as director for the state of Franklin section of the Tennessee American Planning Association, everybody knows as APA, and he's also past secretary of the state chapter of APA and a certified APA instructor. Today's webinar is going to take us on a journey from blueprint to blacktop, as Troy has framed it. And he's going to share some of his experiences with TDOT's integrated project delivery approach to their projects. Troy, thanks so much for presenting to us today, and please take us through the life cycle of a planning project.
Thanks, Todd. Appreciate that. So we'll go through this, and if you do have questions, feel free to pop them in the Q&A or the chat. Todd and I will take a peek at those as we go through. But this particular presentation, what we're going to be looking at is I'm going to give you an overview of TDOT just for the Southern District, give you an idea of what we or how we're now organized, where planning fits into all this, and then we'll go through, talk about our project delivery network, and then we'll get a little more in depth on a specific project and how it's morphing in and planning to the next project, and then how the locals are actually helping us and collaborating with us on maintaining some of this. So that would be the access management part here. So it's kind of 4 different topics we're going to roll through. So we get lots of these, and what we're looking at on this particular slide is we have our total org chart. So we have our commissioner here, and this has actually been updated a little bit, but we have, admin, you've got your field ops, all our operations folks here. So traffic, we, of course, our money folks, legal, major projects. And over here is where planning comes into play, and then project delivery. And this is where our focus is going to be for today. This one is specific, Preston Elliott is our deputy commissioner. And I am under this part, which is under our planning director, who is Matt Meservey. And under planning, we also have, of course, aeronautics. That was our newest, during our reorg, that was our newest group that has been put with planning. We have our Assistant Bureau Chief. He's over Dan Palmy. He's with Transportation Rail Freight and Public Transportation. Y'all know, most of y'all probably know Steve Allen, who is with our now running local programs. So they took his division, kind of made it a little bit different, and still looking with the community investments and local programs was slid over there with him. And then of course we also have our strategic planning, research, and innovation, and that's Julie. But that's where our PMs and that sort of stuff, as well as our research division, is located under planning. So with that, we have IPD and PDN. Okay, we love our acronyms. In the lower right-hand corner, you'll see the QR codes. There's a few of them in here, and I'll leave time up if y'all do want to go to that. That should take you to that one specifically would take you to the PDN page here. If you want more information, more detail to what I'm covering, because I only have a couple minutes to go over each one of these. But with IPD, or the PDN, the Project Delivery Network, this came out of a commissioner who came in, and he was the deputy governor, and he saw issues on how delivery was going through, because we would get through projects and we would get part of the way through the project and have to come back and work through these. Well, it was very inefficient. It was taking an average of 15 years for us to get a project from the very beginning in the planning all the way up through the point where we're actually beginning construction. And that was too long. He did not like how that was going through. So this was developed. So the more traditional, how we were doing things before, is of course you have your planning documents that are required, then it would go to design, then it would go to right of way. Well, somewhere in here sometimes you'd have, oh, we have a new mayor, or we have a new vision for that community, or now we need this, or we've had plans, because you may be 6 or 7 years to this point. Now we've had scope creep, we've had some issues, now we're going to have to come back and we're going to do it again. So this was alternative delivery, but in general with PDN, they've taken these two divisions, which is planning and design, and we've kind of squished them up together here with this total development. And then once this is more in place, then we roll on to the other portions that most folks are familiar with a project being delivered. Of course, you can't talk about any major, huge development without talking about silos. Big agriculture state, but at the same time, we get into these silos where planning's doing their thing and we're moving forward, and then design's going to do their thing, and then it goes to construction, and then maintenance, and maintenance is talking to design on why did you do it this way, because there's no way we can maintain it. And then planning's like, well, we needed to add this in as well. We needed this particular sidewalk, or the community wanted this, or we have a mayor now who's more concerned about, XYZ instead of what we were originally planning. And a lot of that had to do with the time. Of course, the timeline also, of course, the longer the projects go, the more expensive they get. So we're trying to deliver projects much faster, much more efficient, and stay on time, on task, and in scope. So how it was done is we took these silos and rolled them into specific project teams. So now we have a project, and we have specialists that go along, technical specialists that go along the whole way through the project. So before, in the more traditional sense, you would, planning would go through, these are all the planning documents, whether it's within an MPO or if it's outside, and they have a bike ped plan, and we're working on a road here, or they have a corridor plan that's already in place. Well, planning would make sure that the designers had that, designers would take off and run with it. Now, planning goes with the project manager. So the whole way through the project up to the point that we're beginning the delivery. But that also goes on with roadway, structure, survey, all these different divisions of these disciplines that come through now follow that project the whole way through with the team. So you got your PM, and then you have the project. On that project, you have a specific design lead. So if it's a roadway project, typically your roadway project is going to be your design. If it's a bridge, structures, they're going to be the design lead. And then you'll have your technical folks that are coming along with this the whole time. So if we're working on that road, we know we have a bridge, they're going to be in part of it. Survey's already talking to roadway about it, which environment's getting looped in because we have a stream, because we're going over structure, and their right of ways there saying, hey, this is what's going on, and utilities gets involved. And this is all done early because we have pipes hanging off that bridge that are going to come down through here, and we're going to need additional right of way because of slopes. All that's being attacked at the same time and really work together. And the PM is they don't necessarily all work for the PM, as far as like who your supervisor is, but you're responsible for this project, whether it's, these different projects that come down through. So it's definitely a different way to take the team, put them all in the same room, and keep them in the same room as you're coming along. So your right-of-way person will be with you from day one. Your utilities people are there from day one as we work the whole way through, and planning is also involved with this the whole way through with the PM, monitoring what's going on with the locals with some intergovernmental type of work, as well as monitoring the political side of it and trying to keep the PMs in the loop on everything that we're working with. So I show you this as for the next slide. What we're looking at here is, this is the color coded version. So this whole PDN is all, there are lots of abbreviations. There are different sections in here, and that can all be seen on the PDN site as well. If you need more detail on it, but we would come through here, and structures are going to find everywhere that's red. And on the next page, here, for each one of these stages, they know that structures has to deal with this specific item. Of course, your PM starts it. They're going to set up the project and the team. There are very specific outline documents that we have to go through as a project manager. And we have templates that are all available online as well. And we go through step by step the whole way through one of our projects to get that project from point A to point B, basically from that scoping meeting where we have to scope it and make sure that we're right. And then the whole way through to where the right of way and our footprints there, we have plan in hand. And then we have the PS&E that actually gets moving through. But there's also public meetings during this to gather information. And a couple of things I want to point out on this is these little red dots. These are all quality checks. So before it can go to stage 2 here, it has to go through another quality check. Everyone has to make sure that everything's good to go, including planning. Is utility still good to go? Do we have any railroad issues? The traffic division looks at it, planning looks at it, and makes sure that everything's being met on that one specific project. And then we can move on. The second part that is checked is right here, which you can see the dollar sign. Got to make sure it's on scope. We got to make sure it's on budget. One thing that has come out of this is we now publish a 10-year plan. So we know what year that we're going to be working on each one of these sections, when it's going to be funded, and the funding will be there for the construction phase. But we have to keep the scope in context, and we've got to keep it on track so that scope creep doesn't come in, so that project doesn't continue to grow in price, which is one of the risk factors that we look at. And that has a lot to do with the timing. And one of the big things that the project managers are all tasked with is making sure that we stay on task, but we stay within scope and we stay within budget. And a lot of that has to do with timing. Now, with that, of course, here's the QR code. I'll give you a second if y'all want to take a screenshot of that, or use your phone to check that one out. But the entire PDN information is online under TDOT. And this is the version 4.0, which was just put out this June, and it has additional information in it if you want to get down into the weeds and get much more specific with it. So I'm not seeing any questions so far, so we'll keep rolling through here. So let's talk about transportation planning. So everyone at TDOT knows when we give a presentation with planning, This is a required slide. I'm pretty sure that we signed that on and we agree to put this in every single slide or presentation that we've ever given. But this, we can start anywhere on this and it will cycle us back through. And the study that I'm going to look at, the specific project I want to show you, we're actually going to start here with at about the 9 o'clock with the increased traffic. We're going to come the whole way back around to the land use, and then that's where we'll get into the second part of this with planning. We use this example with a lot of our localities, trying them, because, you know, we're trying to protect our plan and protect our network as well as theirs as we're working through this. So if you've been to East Tennessee, there's a good possibility that you've probably been to the Great Smoky Mountains, or you've been to Sevierville, Pigeon Forge, or Gatlinburg. A lot of people just say they're going to Gatlinburg. There's a very, very good possibility that you've actually gone through this interchange. This is the main state route 66, which serves, it is the main artery that goes down heavy tourist area. The latest, when this was done, we're looking at the studies 2013, 2015. Since then, after COVID, the numbers went up and we're looking at roughly 21 million visitors per year to the national park. That came up from about 16 million during COVID. So we are continuing to see this increase in numbers of people flocking to this areas for various events, whether it's a car show, a rod run. They have several convention centers down here. I mean, this is a very heavily trafficked and tourist area. So we're going to get into the study part a little bit, and this is more on the traffic engineering side. So y'all are going to enjoy that. There are some numbers in here and a few things. And actually, some of you all that are on the call now actually participated in this as well. So a couple of things we're going to focus on is this was a diamond and it had a loop in it. And you see the volumes that we had coming up through here. Well, they're, as far as land use, because we're looking at both of these, this is currently vacant in this photo. Bass Pro, large shopping area here. There is a baseball stadium here. This comes down to a flea market and some other areas, which all kind of come together just off the end of the ramps. You can see the level of service that we're dealing with and trying to attack this particular project. Even on this part, you can see with this diamond, you can see the queuing that's already occurring. We have the heavy tight ramp, and then you have this heavy queuing here. And we're also looking at this tapered ramp that comes up, and we have 2 right turns and 1 left that's coming out here, all signalized on your basic diamond. Here's some more here's some more numbers for you. So as you're coming up through here, there was actually queuing going down the interstate, especially on, and one thing about it, when you talk about transportation models and transportation planning, this specific area does not model like most towns, most cities. You have your normal 9 to 5 traffic coming in, but your peak times are more Friday afternoon, Sunday morning because of the tourism side. So it creates definitely a very unique challenge on trying to even model this. We had queues that were running down the interstate, and whether it's for the ramp or in this particular lane, the entire way down, of course, causing issues anytime you're queuing up on your main line, but we had it coming from both directions. You can see the traffic counts here. Projected traffic count for 2032 was up over 130,000. We are already queuing out here, and we are only in the mid to high 70s. So a ramp study was done. The results of the ramp study looked at obviously expanding to be able to control these queues. And with these, we were looking at the heavy right. Most of the traffic was going towards Pigeon Forge, Gatlinburg, Sevierville, Great Smoky Mountains. That's why you see the heavy right turns, and then the split here to go left to go up to the baseball stadium and to Bass Pro and some of the other attractions. Of course, the baseball stadium it is somewhat seasonal, but they also have events there in the winter as far as like different Christmas lightings, holiday themed. in addition to just the other main events that they have. So this was working, knew that this wasn't going to work out based on the ramp queues. So we came through, and again, this is back to our traffic division. They looked at this and they looked at a few alternatives to handle this kind of traffic. This one specifically is looking at the DDI, and this is a very large divergent diamond. And we're talking 2015. We don't have a ton of them in the region at this time. So videos like this, and there was a lot of outreach going to folks to show them this is how this is going to function. You can see the overlay here of the former ramp, how it was working, and then what was done to complete this. You see the additional lanes ended up being 3 going each direction as you go across this. And this is a hot topic for a while. Everyone was saying, what in the world is going on here? You get off on this exit ramp, you're going the wrong way. Well, yeah, you kind of are. But once they figured it out, it does function very, very well because of that. Now with this aerial, we're pointing out now, you know, with our cycle, we've gone through, the LOS has been studied, it's been adjusted. Now we're going to come back into some land use. So I want you to notice this particular big empty piece of property right now. We still have Bass Pro heavy shopping over here. This is now growing up with heavy residential. And we have some major growth that will be going on over here at the baseball stadium. Even though the baseball team has moved downtown Knoxville, which is out, you know, this way, we have a lot of other potentials that are coming up on both of these sides. So this is working now great at the moment. It's not going to continue to be able to last that. We're going to come up with a strategy to try to preserve how it's currently functioning. So this was the timeline that went through on this particular project. This was not a major corridor project like what we're using with IPD, but this was a heavy interchange improvement. You can see 2014 when construction began. It actually kicked over in mid 2015. So roughly 15 months later, it went from the diamond with a loop to the DDI right before the 4th of July. Everything was closed out at the end of 2015. There were a few changes the city of Sevierville wanted to deal with, specifically with the permitting right-hand turns on red versus making them wait for that traffic to go through. And one note on here that our traffic division has put in as well is that our survey and design were all completed within a year. So here's your engineering slide, because I know you all like numbers, and we like to look at these values at the bottom. When you look at this, it's pretty cut and dry. You know, the total crashes as far as safety improvements that we looked at on this, it dropped from 111 to 73. Roadway departures went down. Those are your more serious issues. We had a few upticks on it, but the rear end crashes went down. A lot of that had to do with the sweeping turns where you're looking back over your shoulder. You're not having to deal with that as much. And then you just don't have the conflict points because you go from a diamond to a DDI. Severe crashes dropped from 6 to 4 during the similar time period, and as well as the other injuries dropped by 10 during that same time period, the non-incapacitating. So now we've gone around the circle. We had increased traffic. You saw the LOS that was a problem. We needed issues, made improvements, increased accessibility down through here. Now that we have more increased accessibility, land values are already high and it keeps climbing. Well, now we're back to here. So we're doing a land use change. So that big empty spot that I was looking at didn't stay empty for real long. As you can see, this tiny little gas station showed up and you are familiar with Buc-ee's, but they came through. Of course, they were the largest gas station. This was the largest one at the time until they built the new one in Texas, but this is being a tourist area. This was a home run for them. They see a lot of traffic. Now, one thing that that did happen with this as well, of course, we have a wonderful traffic division in Region 1. And they heavily coordinated on how to open this up and keep this moving, because down below, what you can't see are it's a new interchange with signals, but we didn't have the crazy heavy queuing on the interstate like we did on another Buc-ee's that opened up in a different area that did not have this kind of interchange. This interchange is functioning very well because of a lot of that and the forward thinking of our group. But what I want you to focus on this is we have this nice roundabout over here. This is where the car wash is. We have this road that just kind of goes down here and stops. So now that we're talking about the circle, we have this, we're going back into the planning. So this is an overall arching look at what is going on in this region. Of course, where we are as far as oriented you, this is the exit that we were just looking at. This is State Route 66, which does bring you down into Sevierville. This is Sevierville, which takes you on down to Pigeon Forge and then all the way in through to Gatlinburg and the Great Smoky Mountains. This road for State Route 449, if you've ever been to Dollywood, you've been on this road, because that's the road you come in and out on, whether it's entering this way or if you come out the other way to the parkway, you have hit State Route 449. State 449 used to be the back way to Dollywood that all the locals knew how to get around through and didn't have to deal with all the traffic out on State Route 66. State Route 66 is it's a divided road, 3 lanes each direction, lots of curb cuts, lots of signals. Great for cruising with the rods and the car shows, but not so much on throughput. State Route 449, on the other hand, is more of the expressway to Dollywood and to get about halfway down through this region. It is a 6 to 7 lanes, depends on where you are. Some are divided. There are portions of it that have a center turn lane. And I'm going to talk about access management along that here directly. Because this is already getting full, we have started looking at another exit. So that little road I was talking about here, so this is Buc-ee's, and this little yellow line here, that's the future connection to exit 408. This is the other side. The baseball stadium's right here. This will also connect in. So we're looking at currently a tight diamond design on that one, still to be determined fully, but in improvements here with an extension on State Route 139, which is coming through this region here. You can see you don't have a lot of heavy development out here, but one thing we have lots of is topography and mountains, and that always makes it fun, and that's why roads just can't be straight. But this will come out to an existing state route, which comes to an existing signal. This is the current proposal for this new section. We have a project on the southern end of this as well. So this is the city of Sevierville. This is the way to Dollywood. This is our current project that is undergoing right now. As you can see, there's a river here. That river, we are currently in the process of a bridge going across that in this extension. Well, because we have this, we are working on the extension of State Route 449 around a few things, trying to hit these ridges, squeeze in between, and then come to this location. Now, this location specifically, where it comes out is right across the street from a very large water park. You can see the golf course here, and it is also the convention center. Very large convention center, holds a lot of different events during the year. So these are all current plans. So all we have to do now is come through here and figure out how to get from here to here. Of course, we have another lake. We have another large river here, and we've got quite a stretch of property to get through to finish this up. But we are looking at 4.5 miles on this extension. I'm going to tell you how we're getting all this and paying for all this here in a minute. And exit 408, this is about a little over 1.5 miles for improvements on this road. And the rest of the story on this is going to be this connector here. So currently, this is what planners love to do, and I particularly enjoy putting a line on a map and letting the engineers figure out how to make it work. And this has been planned, but also has been through some preliminary engineering as far as trying to find good locations, hook up on roads that we already have, do improvements on those with doing the least amount of disturbance as possible. This is almost a 5-section or a 5-mile road. We'll have most likely a pair of bridges, and these are going to be significant bridges going across here. This is the final plan, the big plan, overarching plan of what we're looking at versus what has been already funded and what we're moving towards. So, long-range plan, Sevier County does have a long-range transportation plan. They have a consultant that they've been working with for years, and they have had their plan. They have updated their plan to include these. So their plan includes exit 408 here. It has the intra-county parkway, which is this section here. Of course, the Veterans Parkway extension, which is this portion. And this is 449, which takes you straight to the front door of Dollywood here. Then it comes back to 66 and runs in. So you can see the overarching part of this is this road is still, 66 is still going to be there, but this is going to be a much more somewhat access controlled right away and corridor, and we're going to get into that specific. But right now, some of these projects have already been funded. We're going to talk about the funding as well. So exit 408, that was studied with private dollars. That was not studied with state or federal money. That worked with some of the local potential developments that are coming in or could come into that area. And the committee, which consists of one elected official and then the city managers, so 5 total. And then the 449 extension here, it is also funded. It is in our 10-year plan for both of these. And I started getting into it a little bit. How did they do all this? Because money's tight. It's tight everywhere. How are we working through this? So heavy collaboration. Obviously great planning, and then this Tennessee or the TDOT statewide partnership program are a couple ways that they have tackled this. So this particular area, if you're familiar with transportation funding, is not within an MPO. So they don't have SDBG money that they can work locally on these projects. They do make a lot of tax revenue for the state of Tennessee, and they know it, and they're not afraid to call that in and let them know. With the, between 18 and 21 million vehicle trips coming through there and visitors, they're spending a lot of money in this region. So the collaboration consists of the mayor of the county and then the city managers. Well, they get together, and they've been doing this for years, and they have some very successful stories that come out of it. When you're dealing with this many people that are coming in all the time, you have to have really good basic services. A lot of hotels, a lot of restaurants, you're dealing with a lot of water. Their committee discusses their water, wastewater, stormwater. They also discussed waste management. What are we doing with all this trash? What are we doing for all the food waste that we have? And of course, traffic. Couple of the key they've come up with, and they have a massive composter there. You can look into it. It's on YouTube. That they take the food from the restaurants and they basically make compost and they sell it. And they're creating revenue off of some of this. And of course, with the traffic part of this, and part of the statewide partnership program, they actually have gone through and they paid for the studies. They paid for some of the engineering on these projects, but they have come through and they said with the statewide partnership program, which is basically an application saying, hey, this is what we're bringing. This is the improvements we would like to see to the state routes in our area. Here's what we can offer to help you get this project done. Well, they're paying for the right of way on some of these projects. And we're talking upwards of $20 million on some of this. Just to be able to say, okay, we are tied in, we are vested in this. We need your help to come through and do the construction part. Well, with the state of Tennessee is not going to turn money down. But the hard part is we have we have, you know, one point, I think we have a little over $1 billion worth of projects that we run every year. We have about $36 billion worth of ask. And with this statewide partnership program, it's definitely helping us move the needle and deliver these projects. Now, with the delivery side of it, of course, you're looking at a lot more work. And we went back to the PDN, you know, where we started. So these teams are starting to get very, very, very busy and trying to keep these projects. So this is just two projects in one county that we're talking about. We're not talking about the other lots of other projects that we're working on. I think 93 or 95 across the state of Tennessee. That QR code will take you specific and give you details about the statewide partnership program. If you're interested and have more questions on that, gets much more in depth on how we are doing that and working through that process if you do have questions. So we're back again. With this never-ending cycle, we have come through. We saw the increased traffic, worked the whole way around. We had a land use change, land's being developed. We know that the increase is coming, so we're trying to get ahead of it and work on 408 and the other extensions along that. It has sound planning. It has a sound financial background on it, and we're showing the ability to move forward. So what keeps them, locals, because the state doesn't control land use, what keeps them from messing up our roads? We give them ownership of the roads as far as the ability to work on them, but we also have a highway access management policy that we work through. So all of these access points they have to be approved by TDOT. But what they have done on that southern section of 449 is they have actually created what is called they have a corridor management agreement between these cities. These cities work together. They don't fight over development. That's the biggest thing that I've seen that has been so impressive with them. They come through, they do collaborate. You have multiple agencies. So on this particular corridor management agreement, it is Pigeon Forge and Sevierville today. They don't fight over development. They work well with development. So if they go to Sevierville and say, hey, I want to build this, the builder's like, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to go to Pigeon Forge, where they're going to get the same answer in Pigeon Forge as they are in Sevierville because they're talking to each other. So that helps stop a lot of the playing them against each other because they're all working together as a single entity, whether it's Pigeon Forge, Gatlinburg, Sevierville, all of our cities within this realm are working together, we're all rowing the same way and we're making progress. So what the CMA is this one helps manage the operations of this corridor. Now it's still a state road, but as far as accessing this road, we're tying land use and transportation together to make sure that this specific corridor is protected. We've invested a lot of money on 449 as a state agency. In that southern section, we want to make sure that it continues to work. Well, it is. The 449 section is 6.7 miles. This committee has gone through. They have a framework. We had everything set up for, took it to them, and it's still morphing into this animal that it's growing and it's getting better every time. But access management and jurisdictional cooperation were the keys to this. The committee is made up of elected officials and citizens of both cities. Basically, this committee, they go through and they're not a planning commission, but they are a group of folks that look at the access control along this prior to land use decisions being made and site plans approved, whether it's through TDOT or through their planning commissions. But TDOT, we don't have to issue their access to this road until this committee has basically looked at it, or if it's already on the plan. And that's one thing that really helps with this. The developer themselves, they can look at this map, which is published and online, and they can say, okay, this is my property. I already know it's here and I have access. This is where the access is going to be. We know where it's coming over, and then they can start designing for that. And our traffic division was part of this as well. The committee got together with our traffic division and their GIS department, and we rode this corridor. And they looked at every single driveway and looked at every single curb cut or median cut, trying to line these up to make sense on how we're going to have safe access on these roads. Looked at line of sight and try to take care of all this up front. It's not perfect, but it's a really good base. It does have to be tweaked from time to time, but those tweaks are typically very minor. And if they are, it's more like swapping two entrances for one, but we're going to move it a little bit. If they want to move the entrance and they need to do any work in the right of way, as long as it's permitted by TDOT, that's all at the cost of the developer, not of the municipalities. So we're talking about this section of 449 right here on this section. And I'm going to zoom in a little bit and give you some examples of what we were specifically looking at. So these orange dots, these are all driveways. You see the wide right of way here. You see parking down in the right of way, trying to eliminate that. But at the same time, these entrances, when this land is developed or redeveloped, is going to have a single entrance instead of multiple. We're not going to let them have unchannelized entrances as well. These here are the same way. You have access to these two properties. We're going to put them together. And we've actually had that, and I believe it was this one. These three properties were put together. They did a mountain coaster here. The curb cuts are actually in place, but the way they built it, they put one on one end and one on the other and got rid of the one in the middle. And that, of course, with less conflict points, you have better traffic through here. But that's how all this is controlled. These red dots, these are all the ones that are coming out. They will not be able to access their property with these red dots. The yellow dots, they're already there. They're in good shape. We didn't have to make any changes on those. All right, coming down through here. So with the CMA specifically, we're looking at the land use, transportation, how we're working on this together. Of course, the corridor management, it links transportation directly to land use. It makes the land use planners think about it. And the planning, there are planning commission members on the CMA board. And the really nice part about this is they came up with it. They took it back to their local jurisdictions. They were the champions on this to push these regulations through to get them adopted, and took it through with their attorneys and were able to adopt some of these into their other regulations. One was to be able to make this and much more enforceable. But, we're protecting our transportation system. Of course, it improves economic development, quality of life, and then the fiscal responsibility. We know as long as this is managed correctly and we're not giving curb cuts for every single driveway down through there, but we're making them plan and think about it, then they have a much better fiscal responsibility, which means we're not going to have to worry about as much about capacity on this road because we're going to continue the throughput. So next steps that we're getting towards the end here. I do see one question here. I'll get to, it's about PDN, but we have the CMA next steps there. The committee is looking at expanding the access management plan and doing an additional plan for this, which will include additional roads. We have a new connector road that was recently opened, recently for us. And that will be added on, looking at the access on that road to ensure that the access will be controlled similar to what we've already done on the current 449. Part of these corridors are also in the county. So Sevier County can be added as a new jurisdiction. The board's going to have to grow a little bit. But now you've got two cities in a county. They're going to be looking at development, comparing notes, and you get back to that. Well, the county's not going to make me do that. Well, yeah, they are. because we're all talking and we're all working on this together. And then, of course, the new sections of State Route 449, the whole way up to exit 408 at some point, that will all, the goal is to have all that under control of the corridor management agreement and the CMA's board, to make sure that all that information is out there for the developers. They know how they can develop it, but at the same time, it's going to be able to protect that road and that corridor and that massive investment that the locals and the state is going to make along this corridor to protect it without doing a full-blown, controlled access road. It can still help control access, keeping safety in place, as well as the throughput, so we don't have a replay of what we've already built on the other side. So with that, I just want to thank our Region 1 folks, Andy Pageant, who is our traffic operations manager. Brian Bartnick's on here as well. I know he's worked on some of those projects. CDM Smith with Jeff Mize. They're the ones that did the studies, as some of the other studies as well, along the 449 corridor, and we work closely with them. So with that, I'm going to go over and start looking at a few questions. That QR code will take you in and talk more about the Office of Community Transportation and all the different things that we do. If you're interested in that, of course, this is my contact information. If you do have any questions, feel free to let me know. I'll be more than happy to assist or get back with you and answer the questions. So the question I received is, how are or were projects that were under development folded into PDN, or does it only apply to brand new projects? That's a great question. It kind of depends, Mike, on how far we are into the project. Most of the PDN projects are brand new projects we're working through and starting. If we've already gone through the right-of-way process and we're a little bit further down the line, right now that's not been folded in fully to the PDN, but it'll still end up underneath one of the project managers. So that kind of is a good non-answer roundabout on it, but we're trying to develop the new projects while we're delivering the other projects that they're all on the 10-year plan. But the big part about the PDN is to get those projects from beginning to construction within 7 years is our goal. Because one thing about it is our access now is, our mantra is we finish what we start. And we want these projects finished as we're getting them up and pushed through. Okay, I don't see any other questions. We can open it for questions now, Todd.
Yeah, I was gonna say, you do have a really important one that got dropped into the chat. How long did it take you to grow your fantastic beard? Is the question that was posed by Herman Wright.
Thanks, Herman. Good question. I think I've been working on this since about Mother's Day last year. So it's been around a day or two. Yeah, it's a little bit different from the picture.
Got time for a few more questions. If y'all have them, just drop them in the Q&A is probably the easiest way, or I'll look for chat too. If they're pressing questions like the beard question that pop in, I can handle those as well.
I definitely hope this helped. I definitely hope this helped everyone kind of look at what we're doing and kind of where the transportation planning side is coming through, and dealing with the engineers and engineering side, trying to keep everyone on the same page, doing the intergovernmental relations. With OCT, the Office of Community Transportation, it was really designed and pulled out because you have this massive thing called TDOT. And I'm a mayor of a town of, 2,000 people. Who do I talk to? So we are the boots on the ground that go out. We talk to our mayors. We have 89 communities, 24 counties just in Region 1. And we are out in every one of those communities. We're doing studies for the small ones. We do studies for the big ones. We help them with funding. And on the OCT site, we have funding databases that are on there. We have planning grants that we do. There's a lot of things that we help get out and push to get them on the planning side to help them be more eligible for construction grants. But we have a team that's spread across the state. Every region has a couple of planners that are working on it. have a few statewide people that are overseeing some of the MPO or the RPO side. And we definitely are heavily working with a focus on working with our planning partners and bringing them into the engineering world as well with us with TDOT. So it's definitely an interesting dynamic right now with going through this change. But so far so good. Again, we don't have the staff to do all the projects. We do have several consultants that are in helping us with these, and they're embedded into TDOT just for manpower to come through and be able to get on these deliveries, because the IPD and with Project Delivery Network, you got to have people, and you got to have the team leads and the managers and the technical specialists that really know what they're doing to be able to push that. And as we're growing our team, we're able to bring them in, but at the same time, we're on deadline. We told our legislature this is happening, so we got to make sure that we deliver on time. So.
Roy, we do have one more question that dropped in the chat. Emily asked, which types of private funding sources have the locals been using?
Okay, so typically how it works is city, county, or a group, they'll come through and say, hey, we're going to put up $1 million or $2 million. So that'll be private, or not private. That is on that part, specifically with the state partnership program, we're looking at tax dollars that are coming from the locality. So you have our state money, we have the federal money that's coming in, and then we have the local money that is not state. Some have leveraged funds from the MPO as far as their SDBG money, and try to move projects that way, as long as the board obviously approves it. As far as the state partnership program, but the rest of it is done that way. We are currently working on a public-private partnership as well, which is a little bit different project. And there's a lot of information out there on that, but that's where we're getting more into the choice lanes on having private entities come through, do improvements, within our right of way, and then they maintain those particular lanes. You see it a lot in Charlotte, Atlanta, but several different projects there where you have a guaranteed travel time within these heavily congested areas. But that right now, as far as our PPP projects, we have one that we're looking at in Nashville on a particular corridor. Right now we have a Pell planning and environmental linkages project for this 4075 study area in Knoxville. We'll know more information on that within probably next year, whether choice lanes are looked at there or what can be done. Everything's being looked at on that right now. So those are, I hope that kind of answers your question, Emily. But the local money is typically local tax fund.
Got time for probably one or maybe two more questions if anybody has one. Troy did a good job of covering a lot of bases there, so may have already answered all your questions.
Well, if you have any more, if it comes up, just let me know. You shoot me an email, call, something like that, smoke signal, whatever you need to do, and we'll see if we can get it in there. There was a lot of data. I definitely encourage you to go through and look at our HSAM. If you have questions on the corridor management stuff, there's details on that as well on our website, and a lot of really good information out there. Dig into it, see what you can find, reach out. We're more than happy to assist and kind of show you how we're doing things here.
Troy, thank you again for sharing with us today. We appreciate that, and we hope that the attendees found this information useful and maybe something you can personally apply in your area of practice. We plan to make this recording available via the SDITE YouTube channel, and we'll be making an announcement of when that's available for you. Put the link up in an upcoming edition of the SDITE Connector. It will not be in the very next one, but look for the December issue. I hope we'll have a link available for you then. So if you wanted to rewatch it or share it with someone who is not able to attend today, we'll have that available to you. If you're not a Southern District member, but would still like access, just shoot me an email and I'll try to connect you and make that available to you. And I'll repeat, our next webinar that we're planning is another third installment in our series on artificial intelligence and transportation. Hope that that's going to be scheduled. It'll either be early December, or if we get our act together quick enough, we do have a speaker that we're working on right now. It could roll off into mid to late January. So just stay tuned for an announcement on that. And we appreciate everyone joining us today. And I hope the rest y'all have the rest of the day is a good one for you. All right, we'll talk to y'all later.